Opening with the king's pawn controls the center and opens up the light-squared bishop and queen, often leading to sharp games. e5 is a common response that establishes a presence in the center, controls d4, and opens up the queen and dark-squared bishop. Knight f3 develops the knight toward the center, attacks the e5 pawn, and prepares to castle. Knight c6 develops the knight toward the center, protects the pawn on e5, and eyes the d4 square. The Ruy-Lopez opening develops the bishop to immediately attack the knight on c6, the lone defender of the e5 pawn. Knight f6 develops the knight and attacks the undefended e4 pawn. d3 protects the e4 pawn and allows the dark-squared bishop to develop. Bishop c5 develops the bishop, attacks the f2 pawn, and prepares castling. This is a book move, meaning it follows established opening theory, played by top players for years. Castling gets the king out of the center of the board, while also developing a rook. This threatens to win a pawn by removing a key defender. The bishop is ready to be developed to an active square. This creates space for the king to move in case it is attacked. The bishop is kicked by a pawn and must now move or be captured. The correct move to safety. This creates luft for the king, providing it an escape square. One of the best moves. This kicks a bishop. This avoids clear danger. That's fine. Developing the knight and increasing influence in the center. There were worse moves, but also something much better. A very strong play. One more piece joins the action. This threatens to capture a pawn and win material after the follow-up trades. This stops the opponent from being able to tactically win a pawn. That's not a mistake, but it's not the best move either. This strikes at the center to fight for space. This is not the right idea. This is a fair move. A clear recapture. This is the strongest option. Takes back. Black develops the bishop and attacks the center. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. Very precise. There were worse moves, but also something much better. Black's bishop has moved to a square with greater activity and control. Right on target. This maintains the balance in material with a good trade. Recaptures. This mobilizes the knight, allowing it to control more of the board. This takes an outpost, a square where the bishop cannot be kicked out by a pawn. This is not the right idea. This allows the opponent to sacrifice a bishop for a nice tactic. Advancing the pawns in front of the king can compromise the king's safety. The game was close to balanced, but now white is worse. This moves the bishop to a better location, allowing it to control more squares. Black was better off, but now their position is winning. This is the only good move. This threatens to eventually win a pawn. This prevents the opponent from being able to eventually win a pawn. This is an equal trade. Now white can't stop black from winning material if they make the right moves. A clear recapture. This wins material. This leads to losing a knight. This is the way to win a knight. A solid choice. This wins material. That's fine. This wins material. This allows the knight to control more squares. Capturing that knight wins material. A straightforward recapture. That's not a mistake, but it's not the best move either. A clear recapture. That pawn was free for the taking. This is a fair move. This move puts the rook on a safer square. This creates a pawn chain, linked pawns that form a strong structure. That pawn capture will win material after all trades are complete. A straightforward recapture. A clear recapture. This moves the rook to safety. A strong move. This moves the rook to safety. This is the strongest option. Very precise. This threatens to eventually win a knight. Right on target. This is the only move that works. This is the strongest option. This steps away from the checking rook. Very precise. This evades the check from the rook. This move puts the rook on a safer square. This permits the opponent to eventually win material. This wins material. This steps away from the checking rook. One of the best moves. This is the only good move. This blocks the check from an opposing rook. White can win a pawn using a fork with the right follow-up. A straightforward recapture. The clearly correct move for a threatened knight. This is the only move that works. This defends a rook that was under attack and had no defenders. This moves the pawn to safety. That was a free pawn. Black had an advantage, but now the game is close to equal. This is the only good move. This is the only move that works. This moves the knight to safety. This loses a knight. This wins a knight. A clear recapture. Right on target. Pushing a passed pawn. This is the strongest option. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. A very strong play. That's fine. This is the only good move. The passed pawn moves towards its goal. This creates a pawn chain. After all captures, this is an equal trade. A straightforward recapture. A solid choice. One of the best moves. Pushing a passed pawn. This is the only move that works. This steps away from the checking knight. Very precise.